Hello everyone. Today I thought I'd talk to you about pre-felts, but before we start, I'm just showing you the piece of felt that I made in the last video, and it's dried nicely and I'm really looking forward to stitching on that. And if you remember, I put some light minty greens in there towards the end, and I think that's given it a bit of a better three-dimensional texture or appearance. So I'm looking forward to stitching on that, and I must admit I'm very impressed with all your lovely things that you've uploaded to Flickr. I hope that all the people who want to upload to Flickr have done so now. There seem to be approximately 38 members of the group, and I hope that there aren't any people who haven't uploaded because they don't know how or they're unable to. Of course, it's your choice. There's no compulsion to do it, but it's just lovely to share. And I love how everyone's got a different take on what we've done. It's very inspiring to think that people in far-flung corners of the world are doing bits of felt inspired by my workshop. So thank you very much indeed for that. Some people have asked me for names of colours and what have you. Sorry, I'm a bit distracted because the cat's playing with something on the floor behind me. I don't really always know the names of the colours I've used, but I just thought I'd show you this. Whenever I get a new colour, I've actually been on the Wing and Wool website and copied the names down of all the colours, and so whenever I get a new colour, I make a little tag. I've got some, I haven't got any colours on them there because I haven't bought that particular colour, and I just add it to my reference so that I know approximately what colours I've used. You see there's a lot of ones missing on that page because I'm not a fan of shocking pink and bright pink, so it's just a little, I don't know, you might like to do it yourselves when you buy your things from wherever you buy them from, and it's a good guide for later on. I mean, before I did that, and I was very keen on these colours that I showed you, the bowl, I just kept a note of which colours they were that I had. I hope you can see. It's very, very dull here today, so I've had a terrible job trying to get the video into the right position. I'll also show you a piece of felt that I've just finished. You may have seen it on my Facebook or my Flickr page. It's really a departure for me. Oh, not the camera, sorry. Oh, that might even be better. It's a bit of a departure for me in terms of colour, but it illustrates very well the use of pre-felts. Now, for those of you who don't know what pre-felts are, they're pieces of felt that have been not quite fully felted and saved, so that you can then cut them up and use them as your palette, really, onto a background of whatever you like. So I'm going to show you how to make them in a minute, but will be a bit of talking beforehand. So you can see that on this it was a background rather like the backgrounds that we've already made of swirly oranges and what have you, and bits of white as well, and mustard. And then I had a pre-felt in red, and I cut it up and I put it on there, and there's the red again, and here, and I had some greens and I cut those up, and some olives and purple and duck egg blue, and I built up this picture, and then I felted it again. So today I'm just going to show you how to make them, talk about them, and then next time I'll show you how to use them. Now, I know you like to jump ahead, a lot of you, so it's up to you what you do, but you might want to hang on a bit, or you might want to just experiment. Anyhow, that's my most recent picture, stitched to death, I suppose. I don't know whether I've overstitched it really too much. Right, I'll just put that away over there. Here's a little piece. It didn't work out, actually. I'll put it onto that white background because it is much nicer to look at things on a supported background. Now, you can see that's a piece of felt that I've cut off another piece, I suppose you could say, and it was a white background, and I made pre-felts, and I cut shapes out of these pre-felts and put them down and then felted them. And these little blue bits here were just extra bits of wool I added. So that was just a little piece. It was a row of them, but it didn't really work out. So you can see here that I've cut another one off and I've stitched on it, and I still don't know really, you know, I may be able to do something with them, but I'm not absolutely sure. So that's just showing you how pre-felts can then be stitched on and cut out. I haven't done any hand stitching on that at all because it was just an experiment. And now you've probably seen this one. This is the banner, or the header. Oops, it slipped now. That's alright. This is the header for the From Fibre to Fabulous Flickr page. It was a very close-up that I used, and it was quite dark when I took it, so it's come out really rather fabulously on the page, and it got straight into Explore. I did mention it on the blog. That's quite a big deal if you're a Flickr member, to get into Explore. It's the daily pick, I suppose, of the photographs that have had the most attention. So people seem to leap on this. So that's made from pre-felts, again, on a white background, and I'll talk about this little area here. I'm going to show you shortly some things called pebbles that are quite nice to add, but we're going to talk about that later. All will be revealed. And then this is yet another piece that I made, one of 4 actually. I don't know, yes, you can see it. One of 4 that I made after I'd been to a workshop about pre-felts. Now, before this workshop, my pre-felts were quite simple and quite, well, they were textured, but they weren't complex. And I went to this workshop about these very complex pre-felts. So you can see that this one is made up of lots and lots of bits, which I actually cut off a piece that I made on the workshop. I'll just get it out, sorry. They're all about to tumble onto the floor, and I'm anxious about the cat in the background. Naughty Jules. He's washing himself now. So I made this pre-felt, and then, well, actually there's not a lot of point me talking about it now until you actually know what pre-felts are, but if I just show you that now. So here's the pre-felt that I cut some pieces off, so you get quite nice complex areas to stitch. You don't have to do them as complicatedly as that. Before I did this workshop, I was making pre-felts and using them. They're just quite simple ones, and some of the pieces I made that with simple pre-felts were even more successful, I suppose. But this was a nice way of using them. I'm showing you this one because you can clearly see where the pre-felts have been used, because the background is a very sort of, well, it's not monochrome exactly, but it's all green. It's shades of very dark green, so it lets you see exactly which bits are the pre-felt and which bits are just the felted background. So I'll show you some actual pre-felts that I've made. Now they're just a simple one. A pre-felt is really a partly felted piece of felt. Now this is very flimsy, and if I I'll take it up to the camera to show you. I'm not going to zoom in because the camera's in a very perilous position. You haven't got the wiggliness or the bumpiness because this wool isn't completely felted. It's a piece of wool, an area of felt that has just been very lightly felted. If I really pulled, I could still pull it apart. It wouldn't hold entirely, but you know, it's fairly firm. It's not too bad, and it's just mustardy yellow, and it's the same on both sides, on either side. So that's all right to use as a pre-felt. Now here's another thing you can do if you want to make yourself a good paint box, really, I suppose you would say, ready for using. This is one colour on one side and one colour on the other side, and it's not terribly thick and it's dry, and you can cut shapes out and they'll hold together. And then when well, we won't talk about it. I keep trying to rush ahead and I mustn't. You can add a lot of texture to your pre-felt. So let me just have a look. Here's a piece that I made, and I've actually used it in several places, and it's green and it has a lot of other shades of wool as well, just like we made the other pieces of felt that you first made, only very lightly felted, and it has a lot of silk in it. The silk tops are beautifully shiny and lustrous, and they give it a really nice surface. So I made that with one layer of green, and when I did the other side, or the next layer, it was a slightly different layer and a slightly different set of colours. So I now have 2 different coloured bits of felt that I can use on other pieces. It saves time and it saves a lot of effort if you do it double-sided, although then you have to make your decision which side do you want to show. I'll just get another one out. Here it's just a very basic one I made a long time ago, and it's really not a very good one. It's very, very uneven. It's got huge lumps on it. That's even not meant to be attached, so it wasn't a mistake. And I've just added a few bits and bobs of other fibres that, you know, it's not very spectacular, but it's there and it's in my bag and it's there to use. You've seen pictures of Hetty, and she once got hold of one of my nice machine embroidery threads in red, and she chewed the end off so comprehensively that I couldn't even untangle it. So I took it off and I snipped it all into bits, and I added it to the surface of this pre-felt, and in fact it's the same thing that I used here. So you can just see, I'll hold it into the light, you can just see the red with the bits of thread on it. I'm just trying to hold it to the light. It's a very, very dull day here today, and if I have my camera in front of the window, the camera reads the light outside and makes everything dark. So I did it red on one side and shades of purple on the other, and I think there might have even been a bit of silk felt in there, silk fibres in there. This one is very much covered in silk fibres. I don't know if you can see the colour very clearly. It's a sort of mustard and olive and brown with shades of well, bits of quite light brown silk. I'm just going to try to turn the camera around a little bit, see if I can get a bit. Oh, that's better, isn't it? Looks like you get more of me, which I don't really want. Never mind. With my old grey felting cardigan on, nearly felted itself. Oh, there we are. That's much better colour-wise, isn't it? So you can see all the shades on the surface. And on the back, it was black with just some greys on, which actually in reality are not quite as contrasty as they look on the screen. Right, this is a nice little one that I've used a lot lately. It's just got little bits of grey wool on, and also another, I don't know whether Hetty actually got hold of that one, but there's some snips of thread on there. And on the other side it's got quite a rich lot of colours on in silk and wool. So you can really go to town on these, and then you can use them on plain backgrounds. I'm going to show you, this next one has these pebbles on. They're called pebbles. They come in a bag like this. I don't really know what they are. They're called neps or something. They're just little bits of sort of bobbles off the wool, I suppose. I don't really know. And you can add those on. They don't stick all that well, but when they do stick, they can make quite a pleasing background. And on this one, I'll show you again, I've actually laid them onto the background felt, not onto the pre-felt, and stitched around them so that they become a feature of the design. They look like little seed pods or leaves or something. I rather like those. And I've put some on this kind of flowerish bit at the top here, you can see. Can you see that? With the, and stitched around them on the machine. That's quite a tricky thing to do because they're fairly bulky. So I'm going to show you how to make a pre-felt now. First of all, I've got the camera on the all singing, all dancing brand new tripod, so we'll see if that's any better. I've laid out a small area of a pink. I don't use pink very often, but I thought I might as well use it, and then I'll have another little bit in my palette, in my colouring box, I suppose you could call it. It's a very thin layer, and it's only about the size of, well, smaller than a sheet of A4 paper. So, and of course it'll shrink a bit, but you don't really need a lot. You could create yourselves a whole library of colours. It's quite nice to have one light colour on one side and a dark colour on the other, because when you use it, which you'll see later when I show you, you get a nice squishy effect where the underneath colour will squish out. So if you use it with the dark side up, you'll get a nice light line round it, and if you use it with the dark colour on the top, No, sorry, if you use it with the light colour on the top, you get a dark line around it. So I'm going to use that lightish pink. I haven't remembered what colour it is. And this new purple, this is called Deep Parma Violet for anyone who's interested. And it's brand new. So I've done one fine layer, and then I'm going to do another fine layer in the opposite direction, as we did before, exactly the same. And this is another reason I haven't made it very big, because I'm sure you don't want to sit and watch me lay out the fibres on a huge piece. I don't mind pinks, but sometimes I'm not very good at using them, so that's perhaps why I avoid them. So now we have 2 layers, and they're only fine layers, and I'm just going to... Now, one little thing about it is obviously that because they're very fine layers, the pink might show through. So if you're very bothered about that, you could make it a little bit thicker so that the pink doesn't show through. You can leave the wispy edges because you might want to cut a piece off that's wispy to put on top of another piece. So on this piece, I'm going to add some silk fibres. This is unspun silk, as I talked about before. And as I said, it doesn't, it won't shrink in, but it'll get taken up by the wool, and the wool will make it wiggle, give you a wiggly effect as it pulls it inwards. That wasn't very well explained, was it? Sorry, but I think you know what I mean. Oops. So, just adding a few bits here and there, and don't forget to shrink up. Now these are some other things that you can add. I don't know that I'm going to add them. I might add the pink ones. I used to make brooches from Harry's tweed, and they had frayed edges, so when I pulled the frayed edges off, I didn't throw them away, I kept them. They're quite nice, so I'll just experiment and add a few of these to this dark purpley side. I don't really know what they're going to look like, but it doesn't matter. You can add them in and see. And my mistake will be your learning curve. So that's one side. I mean, I would probably spend a bit longer. Maybe I'll just put some other... I've got lots of... They're not terribly nice silk tops, these. So I'll just put them in a bag together, because I wouldn't use... I'm doing that thing again. I'll stop talking while I'm rattling the paper. Right, that's a lovely colour, actually. I don't know why I said it wasn't very nice. It's rather pretty blue. Now, if you put a lot of this on, you get a lovely sheeny, shiny surface, but it is mostly like that other piece I showed you. It just looks mostly silk and not wool. Now I'm going to turn this over now to do the back, to put some textures on the back, but I need another piece of polythene, which I thought I had ready, and I have now lost it. Maybe it's... Excuse me a minute while I root. There it is. So I put my other piece of polythene on the top, and hope I haven't stood the tripod on this one. No, I haven't. And flip it over. Take it off. And now I can start to add other textures to this. You don't have to add any textures if you don't want to. If I added the same textures, I'll get a completely different effect. So I might do that, and then you can see what's happening here. I noticed on the Flickr pages some people had already added all sorts of things to their felt surfaces, which was lovely. And don't forget, you can do that. You don't have to add it to the pre-felts. You can add it straight directly to the felt. You can put all sorts of things on. I'll go through a few afterwards with you. I've got plenty more. So now I've done that, I'm just going to go through the normal... Well, I could have added more to that. Maybe I will. There's a lilac-y one here. And of course I could have added lots of different things, but we'll just stick with the silk fibres for now. So we just go through the normal procedure of wetting the felt or the wool like we did before, and then we soap it. Now the good thing with pre-felts is you don't have to rinse the soap out, because you're going to wet them and use them again. So that just get rinsed at the end. So you can just leave the soap in at the end. Are you all finding that your hands feel nice and soft after you've finished making felt with this lovely soap? It always makes your hands look really clean and feel really nice, I think, at the end. So there we are, it's wet all the way through. I'm going to take this off and roll it up. I'm not bothered about the edges because we're going to cut pieces off it anyway. I'm going to roll it that way. And I might show you what I meant last time about putting it inside a bamboo mat as a whole tube, because I did find that did actually help. So you could just roll it like this if you don't have a bamboo mat. Oh, in fact, I've got a good little tube there. Actually, you have to be careful not to over roll this, because you don't want it to be completely felted. So let's say we do 40 times in one direction. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. Not a lot. I can open it out. And roll it the other way 40 times. I suppose I did a bit more than 40 because I did it before I started counting, didn't I? And roll it up again. Here's what I meant about putting it inside the bamboo mat. If it's easier for you to roll it like this, just put the whole thing inside like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. I'm only up to 25, but I just wanted to say, always when you're making felt, roll every area. If you're going to make a really big piece and you only roll the edges, you're going to end up with a bit in the middle that isn't properly felted. So what was I up to? 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. So let's have a look at this now and we'll see what it's like. Very soapy. I think I've probably put a bit too much on. But like I say, you don't have to bother taking it off. Right, it's quite shrunk. In fact, it seems to have gone in one direction a bit more than that. I'm just going to get rid of some of that soap. I think there's a bit too much. So I'm squeezing it out. And I'm going to get my other towel, or one of my other towels, and just get rid of that because I don't want too much soap. Right, there we are. Ooh, I can hear the soap. There is a bit too much in there. So you can see that it's a piece of felt that's kind of holding up on its own, really. You could pull it apart, but it would last. You could roll it more if you wanted to. When you start using these, I'll talk about how, you know, how much rolling creates what effect. So that's a pre-felt. Oh, I hope you'd like to build up some pre-felts for yourself. Build yourself a whole lot of them in lots of different colours, and then next time we can start putting them together and making a piece. I'm just going to put that away now. Well, in fact, I'll put it to dry somewhere out of the way. And now I've done that, I'm going to show you some more textures that you can add and just talk about a few different fibres that I've bought. Now these don't have to, I'm going to get this jolly old box canvas out again because it's a nice thing to show the textures on, isn't it? So like I said, I've got these bits of, I don't know that the light's very good though, is it? Oh well, never mind. Bits of Harris tweed edging. Ooh, they're very hairy. I have such things as Wensleydale locks, which Hetty has just kindly taken out of the bag for me and taken down all the way down the landing outside the room that I work in, which I suppose I ought to call my studio, but it is actually just a little tiny bedroom. It's very cosy, but cosy isn't good, is it, when you have a studio? Now these would be nice laid down. I have laid them down in certain areas. And as I say, you don't have to lay them onto your pre-felts, you can lay them onto your actual felt. And just to create a nice area of interest. So there are those. And of course I've shown you the pebbles, which we've already used. Here's some absolutely just wonderful wool. A long time ago my husband was working in Wales at Powys Castle. And the nearest town is Welshpool. And I went with him for a day, and I was wandering around the town, and I blundered into this place, and it just so happened to be the home of Collinette Yarns. I don't know if you can see the colours. I'm going to turn it around a little bit. And it was like an Aladdin's cave with all these amazing hand-dyed yarns hanging up all around. Now at the time I wasn't a felter, really, particularly. I didn't, no, in fact I wasn't. I wasn't really a knitter, and I wouldn't have the first clue how to handle this wool, but I just had to have some. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a boucle, and that's really nice added to felt surfaces. So it's Collinette. They have a website, and it's quite expensive, but it's stunning. And of course you can add just other kinds of wool. This is some you know, when you're in a group, people often bring stuff that they've finished with or that they've inherited and they don't want. And it was somebody must have had a sort of needlepoint kit with these Appleton's wool yarns, and they're absolutely lovely. So they make nice additions to felt because they're wool, and they do shrink a bit as well. So if you wanted to do something linear, that's how you could do it. Now this is just I just bought this on the market locally because there was a woman there who used to be a textile teacher, and she was selling kits for, well, she was selling the wool and a button and instructions for knitting a woolen bag and then felting it. So this lovely wool is actually wool, so that's nice. You can do sort of linear things with that as well on your felt, or you can open it out. You know, if you just don't happen to have a bit of that colour, it's quite nice to have these multicoloured wool, lightly spun pieces. I have a whole bag here of goodies, but I don't think I can go through everything. There are all sorts of silk things here. I've got this, I've never used this, and it's very soft, and it says it's from Wingham, and I bought it with the intention of incorporating it into felt, and then perhaps using iron-on transfer paints with it. So that's a fibre sample, it's just a sample pack, and it's made from recycled plastic bottles. So it doesn't sound very nice, but it's beautifully soft, but very unnatural. I have a whole box of dyed scrim here, and here's another bit of yarn. This is another Collinette yarn, all mixed in together. I'm sorry, I'm very untidy. And these are things that you can add as well to the surface of your felt. I had a go once at dyeing some lots and lots of scrims. I never used them. So you can add all kinds of things, and I'd love to see some of your experiments. This is a little bit of the kind of scrim that you used to be able to buy for use with plastering, plasterboard. But nowadays, if you want plasterer's scrim, you have to go to the DIY store, and it's a horrible plastic thing with a self-adhesive back, so this isn't available readily anymore. If you wanted to use this, you have to go to a conservation builder's suppliers, and it's very hard to control because as soon as you wet it, it goes all sort of sticky and doesn't maintain its shape very well. But it's a very nice little surface to use for adding to felt. So I hope that's enough for today to keep you going, and I hope that you're going to get on and make some lovely pre-felts so that next time we can all have a nice time using them. Thanks for watching. Bye.